Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal the quiet stability of Port Charles is about to be shattered by the arrival of a woman whose name has been forgotten but whose bloodline remains undeniable. Her appearance is elegant but restrained, her presence calm but commanding, an enigma in heels who seems to carry the weight of generations in every measured step. Whispers trail behind her like smoke, and as her image graces the hallways of the Metro Court and the corridors of General Hospital, the town begins to buzz with uneasy speculation. She doesn't speak of the past, but it lingers around her like a ghost. Everyone wants to know who she is, and more importantly, what she wants. And then the rumor explodes: she is the long-lost sister of Monica, the heart and conscience of the Quartermain family. A sister no one ever spoke of. A sister thought to be dead. A sister who now walks among them, carrying both sorrow and a veiled threat. Behind the scenes, producers of General Hospital have carefully guarded the details of Erica Slezak's character. Her role has been one of the most tightly held secrets in the soap's recent history. But insiders at Daytime Confidential are almost certain, Slezak has been cast as Monica's older sister. A woman who vanished from the family's collective memory decades ago under circumstances steeped in scandal, shame, and silence. Those who knew of her existence were made to forget, those who came later were never told. Her name was scrubbed from birth records, her photographs removed from family albums, her story buried so deep it threatened to dissolve entirely. Until now. Monica's own history has long been laced with complicated relationships and private struggles, but even her fiercest allies never imagined she had a sister, a woman banished before adolescence, reportedly after a family tragedy involving the mysterious death of a cousin during a boating accident on Lake Ontario. Rumors from those years hinted that the elder sister had been blamed, although no charges were ever filed. The family, eager to preserve its spotless reputation, quietly arranged her disappearance, sending her abroad with a promise of silence and a modest trust fund to ensure she never returned. Now, over 40 years later, that trust has run dry, and the woman has returned to Port Charles with the poise of someone who has waited a lifetime for her moment. Her arrival comes as Monica's health rapidly declines, with plans underway for a heartfelt, deeply emotional farewell befitting a woman who anchored the Quartermain name through storms both personal and political. Monica's upcoming death will mark the end of an era, but for her sister, it marks the beginning of a war. From the moment she sets foot on Quartermain property, tension begins to boil. Tracy, ever the defender of the family legacy, is quick to sense danger. With Edward and Lila gone, and Monica now slipping into the final stage of life, Tracy views herself as the last true guardian of the family's name and assets. But a newly surfaced sister, with an airtight DNA match and a hidden cache of Monica's handwritten letters, threatens to unravel the tightly coiled power dynamics that have long defined the Quartermain empire. And the sister has not come alone. She is accompanied by her son. A sophisticated, magnetic, and enigmatic surgeon named Sebastian. A former prodigy in cardiovascular research, Sebastian built a glittering medical career across Europe before becoming embroiled in a controversial scandal involving illegal stem cell procedures, patient deaths, and rumors of collaboration with biotech companies known for circumventing ethical oversight. Though no conviction was ever secured, Sebastian fled the continent and now seeks reinstatement in the United States. He arrives in Port Charles with a pristine resume, glowing recommendations from shadowy figures, and a quiet ambition to take Monica's position at General Hospital. His entrance is nothing short of strategic. Almost immediately, Sebastian begins forging relationships with key members of the GH board, aligning himself with Hamilton Finn, drawing the curiosity of Elizabeth, and even crossing paths with Anna, whose instincts instantly register something off about him. Within weeks, his name is floated as a potential new head of cardiothoracic surgery, a move that alarms longtime staff and sends waves of suspicion through the hospital. Back at the mansion, the sister begins working her influence like a true Quartermain. She speaks softly, evoking Monica's name with reverence, planting seeds of doubt in the minds of Michael and Drew. She brings out photographs from a forgotten past, old letters filled with shared childhood stories, and even claims that she and Monica had reconnected in secret during the last few years, through emails, video calls, and an exchange of gifts. These revelations catch everyone off guard, especially when she produces what appears to be a revised draft of Monica's will, naming her as a partial heir to the family estate and as trustee of Monica's share in the hospital's private foundation. The implications are staggering. Tracy demands a handwriting analysis. Ned consults a legal team. Brooke Lynn scours the Quartermain archives for any proof that Monica had indeed reconnected with this sister. Yet despite all this, public sentiment begins to shift in the stranger's favor. The press seizes on the story of the long-lost sibling reclaiming her rightful place, painting her as a woman cast out by privilege and now returning with grace. The hospital board becomes divided, and a civil war brews quietly in the mansion halls. Then, as if fate demands another twist, an anonymous tip is sent to the Port Charles Herald suggesting that Monica's original will may have been altered under coercion. The tip includes a time-stamped recording of Monica, sounding groggy, possibly medicated, making ambiguous statements about being tired of fighting Tracy and wanting peace for once. The recording's origin is unknown, but its implications are explosive. Did Monica truly change her will of her own volition? Or was she manipulated, by a sister desperate for redemption and revenge? Tracy goes on the offensive. She hosts a press conference declaring the new will a fraud, accusing the sister and her son of orchestrating an elaborate con. But in doing so, she reveals a family secret she swore she'd never speak of. That the sister had once been institutionalized as a teenager following an incident that involved the mysterious poisoning of a family maid. This shocking revelation only deepens the divide, as some accuse Tracy of mental health shaming and character assassination, while others begin to question just how many skeletons the Quartermains have locked away. As Monica's memorial approaches, the town prepares for what promises to be the most emotionally charged episode in General Hospital history. The ceremony itself is set to take place on the hospital rooftop at sunset, a symbolic nod to Monica's final wish. But what should be a tribute becomes a battlefield. During the service, the sister is scheduled to deliver the closing eulogy, but Tracy intercepts her with a court injunction. The sister counters with a live broadcast, reading a prepared speech to the entire town, revealing shocking truths about the Quartermain family's past and claiming her place not just as Monica's sister, but as a Quartermain in full. The fallout is immediate. Hospital administrators threaten resignation if Sebastian is hired. The GH Foundation temporarily freezes its grants pending legal review. Long-standing alliances within the Quartermain family collapse overnight, as members choose sides in a battle that may last for years. In the shadows, Valentine begins to take interest in Sebastian's affiliations, suspecting that his sudden appearance may have been orchestrated by deeper forces, possibly linked to Victor's unfinished business or remnants of the Cassadine Empire. What began as a mourning period becomes a generational reckoning. Monica's legacy will be shaped not only by the patients she saved and the family she tried to hold together, but by the secret she carried to her grave, and the sister who has returned to bury the past in fire. Erica Slezak's performance promises to define a new chapter in General Hospital history, as the show pivots from remembrance to reinvention, and the Quartermains brace for the storm that has only just begun. Simmering just beneath the chaos unleashed by the arrival of Monica's long-lost sister was a bombshell discovery that would further fracture the already fragile foundation of the Quartermain family. Hidden within the bottom drawer of Monica's private study, wedged behind old journals, patient files, and a dusty music box, was an unmarked cassette tape. It might have gone unnoticed forever had Brooke Lynn not stumbled upon it during a desperate search for anything that could discredit the stranger now claiming a rightful place within the Quartermain dynasty. When the tape was played, what emerged was not just a nostalgic echo from the past, but a confession. A chilling, unfiltered admission from Monica herself that shook the family to its core and cast decades of silence into a new, sinister light. In the recording, Monica's voice was slow, laden with remorse, and punctuated by heavy pauses that hinted at the weight of her words. She recounted, in painful detail, a childhood accident involving a young boy, her cousin's son, who drowned during a summer holiday at the family's lakeside retreat. The official story had always been that it was a tragic accident, a moment of childish recklessness. But in her confession, Monica revealed that her elder sister had been present that day, and had been unfairly blamed for negligence when, in truth, it was Monica who had failed to act in time. Gripped by fear and shame, Monica had said nothing when their parents accused her sister, choosing instead to protect herself and preserve the family's pristine reputation. The result had been catastrophic. Her sister was disowned, shipped away to a boarding facility overseas, and ultimately erased from the family lineage. For decades, Monica carried the secret like a wound that refused to heal, occasionally trying to make amends through anonymous financial support and silent surveillance of her sister's whereabouts. But she had never publicly acknowledged the truth, until now, through the tape she never meant for anyone to hear. And now that it had been unearthed, that truth was no longer just a personal burden, it was a weapon. Her sister, once vilified and cast aside, now held a powerful key that could demolish Tracy's carefully controlled narrative and shift public sympathy in a heartbeat. Armed with this confession, the sister launched a two-pronged offensive. Not only demanding full restoration of her status within the Quartermain lineage but also pushing for sweeping structural changes to how the family's assets, medical endowments, and foundation grants were managed. She accused the Quartermains of a decades-long pattern of elitism, exclusion, and manipulation. She questioned the legitimacy of Tracy's control over the family's healthcare investments, pointing to gaps in transparency and irregularities in charitable distributions. And most notably, she began cultivating support from Port Charles community leaders and GH board members who had long felt alienated by the Quartermain name. Simultaneously, her son, Sebastian, quietly began embedding himself in the hospital's infrastructure. Using a combination of charm, subtle bribery, and strategic alliances, he targeted vulnerable departments and administrative loopholes, all under the guise of revitalizing General Hospital's failing cardiology program. What few realized was that Sebastian had a murky past that intersected with GH in troubling ways. Years earlier, during Jason's time working undercover for the feds, there had been reports of Sebastian's presence in a Balkan transplant facility linked to illegal organ trade and black market pharmaceuticals. Though never formally connected, Jason had filed a sealed report mentioning a European surgeon with Quartermain ties as a potential informant, or a double agent. Now, as Carly combed through Jason's old documents, left behind in encrypted files he had shared with her during their brief time as allies, she began to recognize names, locations, and connections pointing squarely at Sebastian. Her investigation revealed that he had once been a person of interest to the FBI in an operation involving biological testing on terminal patients, some of whom had suspicious links to recent unexplained deaths at GH. It was possible, even probable, that Sebastian was working for a covert medical syndicate that used legitimate hospitals as testing grounds. With Monica gone and administrative oversight in flux, General Hospital had become the perfect breeding ground for their next experiment. As Carly raced to confirm her suspicions, the mood inside the Quartermain mansion became increasingly volatile. Old ledgers were exhumed from locked safes. Unread letters from Monica, some addressed to her estranged sister but never sent, surfaced in hidden compartments. Their contents spoke of regret, longing, and a growing desire to correct the past. Yet even these gestures only fueled division, as each family member interpreted Monica's words in self-serving ways. Some began to suspect each other of manipulating Monica during her final months, perhaps even coercing her to revise her will or withhold key information from Tracy. Trust disintegrated rapidly. Ned began consulting private investigators behind Tracy's back. Olivia locked her office drawers at the Metro Court for the first time in years. Michael found himself torn between loyalty to the Quartermain name and a deepening empathy for the woman claiming to be his great-aunt. Brooke Lynn, once skeptical, began secretly meeting with the sister to understand her motivations. And discovered, to her shock, a shared passion for music and a level of emotional intelligence she had rarely encountered within the confines of her own bloodline. Outside the family estate, the spectacle only grew. Reporters camped outside the gates. Satellite trucks filled the hospital parking lot. Opinion pieces filled local columns debating whether this was a long overdue reckoning for the Quartermains or a calculated ploy for wealth. Social media lit up with hashtags like #Quartermain Scandal and #Justice for Monica's sister. Even former characters, long retired or written off, began trickling back into Port Charles, drawn by the siren call of inheritance, loyalty, or revenge. Skye returned, questioning her place in the family hierarchy. Dylan re-emerged with camera crew in tow, filming a documentary on the unraveling of America's most dysfunctional dynasty. As the legal battle between Tracy and the sister intensified, courtroom drama bled into hospital boardrooms and family dinners. Tracy, fearing she was losing her grip, made a bold move, accusing Sebastian of malpractice and launching a formal inquiry into his past medical credentials. But the backlash was swift. Several GH staffers rallied behind Sebastian, believing him to be a reformer unjustly targeted by a bitter matriarch. Worse, the inquiry backfired when it exposed prior undisclosed conflicts of interest between Tracy and GH suppliers. With every passing day, the battle grew less about Monica and more about legacy, power, and the future of Port Charles. The lines blurred. The stakes escalated. And all the while, the audio tape, Monica's confession, echoed in the hearts of those who had once believed they knew who the Quartermains were. In that voice, cracked with age but clear with truth, lay a reckoning that could no longer be postponed. The sister had returned not just to reclaim a name, but to rewrite the narrative of a family that had spent decades controlling who was allowed in and who was cast out. Whether savior or saboteur, she had thrown open the gates of the past, and now, all of Port Charles would be forced to walk through them. As the autumn leaves begin to fall over Port Charles, an air of solemnity and tension settles over the town in equal measure. The community, both inside and outside the walls of General Hospital, is preparing for what promises to be the most elaborate, emotionally charged, and controversial memorial in its storied history, the farewell to Monica. For decades, Monica stood not just as a healer in her white coat, but as the moral compass of the Quartermain family, a woman who carried burdens in silence and made sacrifices that would never be publicly acknowledged. Now, with her passing looming, the town braces itself for a tribute meant to celebrate a legacy of service, love, and quiet strength. Yet behind the scenes, whispers swirl of an event that may unravel into something far more explosive. A public crucible in which power, secrets, and betrayal will collide beneath the veil of mourning. Planned as a high-profile affair hosted on the manicured grounds of the Quartermain estate, the memorial is intended to be a celebration of Monica's contributions to Port Charles, complete with speeches from hospital officials, a musical tribute from Brooke Lynn, and archival footage spanning her decades of influence. The guest list includes esteemed doctors, civic leaders, old friends, and estranged relatives, many of whom haven't shared a room in years, some of whom were once rivals or lovers. Helicopters are expected to hover overhead, the press will broadcast live, and networks across the country have arranged coverage for what has already been dubbed the farewell of the year. But beneath the pomp and circumstance is a storm of unresolved conflicts, buried truths, and emotional landmines. Set to detonate the moment the first eulogy begins. What few know is that Monica left behind a final written address, an intimate eulogy meant to be read at her memorial. But in an unexpected twist, she requested, through sealed legal instructions, that the person to deliver it not be Tracy, not Alan's son, not a hospital chief or longtime friend. Instead, it is to be read aloud by the very woman who once bore her family's scorn and was erased from their lives, her long-lost sister. The same woman whose reappearance has already thrown the Quartermains into turmoil now holds the power to speak Monica's final words, a decision that stuns and infuriates many in the family, especially Tracy, who sees the choice as a betrayal and a calculated provocation. As the day of the memorial approaches, security around the estate is tightened. Reporters swarm the perimeter. Legal teams jockey in the background, debating whether the sister has the standing to participate at all. Tracy makes a last-minute attempt to block her from the podium, but is overruled after Monica's legal representative presents documentation bearing Monica's signature, handwritten in ink barely a week before her death. The legitimacy is verified. The stage is set. And no one knows exactly what will be said. When the sister steps forward, dressed in black, her posture a perfect mix of grief and defiance, the crowd falls into a hush. In her hands is the folded manuscript. In her eyes is the knowledge that what she is about to reveal may tear apart what remains of Monica's carefully guarded legacy. The eulogy begins softly, with gratitude and nostalgia. Monica speaks from beyond the grave of her life's work, her regrets, her love for her children and patience, and her dreams for a better future. But as the speech unfolds, the tone sharpens. Monica confesses, in stunning detail, that the betrayal she feared most did not come from her estranged sister or external enemies, but from within the very walls of the Quartermain mansion.